If you've ever felt like your dreams are slipping further away the harder you chase them, stop. Because what I'm about to reveal could be the most important truth you'll ever hear. And here's the danger. If you ignore this, you could spend the next year, the next decade, even your entire life, stuck in the same endless cycle of struggle. You see, most people are taught to fight their way into a better future, forcing the mind to think positive, forcing the body to keep pushing, forcing reality to bend to their will. But here's the hypnotic truth. Force is not power. Force scatters your energy. Force creates noise in your signal. And that noise is why the universe keeps reflecting back chaos instead of clarity. Quantum physics proves it. Every thought you have broadcasts an electromagnetic signature. Every emotion carves a pattern into your heart and brain. When you're stressed, anxious, desperate, your heart rhythms turn jagged, your breath shallow, and your brain waves fractured. Scientists call this incoherence. It's biological static. Imagine trying to tune into your favorite song on an old radio, but all you hear is hissing, crackling noise. The music is there, but the signal is too dirty to reach you. This is the prison most people live in. Repeating affirmations, forcing visualizations, layering positive words over a body still trapped in survival mode. And the result? Exhaustion, frustration, years slipping away with no real change. But there is another way, a rare shift, a secret few ever discover. I call it the quantum frequency shift. And the moment you unlock it, your nervous system calms, your awareness expands, your signal clears, and reality has no choice but to bend to your true intention. The question is, will you claim it now, or will you keep chasing until another year of your life disappears forever? Now imagine this. You've been running on the hamster wheel of effort, pushing harder, setting bigger goals, plastering vision boards across your walls, chanting affirmations late at night, yet waking each morning with the same emptiness, the same debt, the same frustration. Doesn't it feel like time itself is mocking you? Every sunrise a reminder that nothing has changed? This is the cruel trap of force. It tricks you into believing that if you just grind harder, your life will finally shift. But what if the opposite were true? What if the harder you push, the more resistance you create? Science tells us why. Research from the HeartMath Institute reveals that when your heart and brain fall out of sync, your body floods with stress hormones. Cortisol spikes. Your nervous system locks into survival. And survival doesn't build dreams. Survival only repeats the past. That's why Sarah, a woman in New York, spent months trying everything she was told. She filled her apartment with quotes, notes, and posters of her goals. She wrote affirmations until her hand ached. She visualized the life she wanted until she fell asleep at night. And yet, the only thing she manifested was more debt, more exhaustion, more despair. Have you ever wondered why this happens? Why some people push endlessly yet remain stuck in the same painful loop? The answer is frequency interference. When one part of you screams, "I want this," but another whispers, "I'll never have it," the signals collide, desire and fear broadcast at the same time. And the field, the great quantum canvas of possibility, doesn't hear your words. It hears your energy. It reflects the totality of your signal, not the dream you scribble on paper. This is why you feel stuck. Not because you're lazy, not because you lack discipline, but because your signal is fractured. Think about that. If your thoughts are electricity and your emotions are magnetism, then together they create the blueprint of your reality. But when they're incoherent, when thought says one thing and emotion screams another, the blueprint collapses and life continues exactly as it is. The most dangerous part, you may not even notice how much time has already slipped away. 1 year of failed attempts quietly becomes 5. 5 years become 10. And suddenly you wake up realizing you've been running in circles your entire life. That's why this moment matters. That's why this video matters. Because right now you stand at a doorway. One path leads back into the prison of force, where you keep repeating the same patterns until you collapse under the weight of disappointment. The other path leads to coherence, to clarity, to the shift that reorganizes reality itself. The quantum frequency shift is not about doing more. It's not about forcing yourself into toxic positivity. It's about creating a signal so clean, so harmonious, that the field has no choice but to mirror it back. And here is the paradox. The moment you stop fighting, The moment you stop forcing, the moment you release your grip, the energy you've been scattering returns. It consolidates. Your nervous system softens. Your heart and brain sink into rhythm. And suddenly, doors you thought were locked begin to open effortlessly. Ask yourself this: how much longer are you willing to wait? How many more years are you willing to gamble on force before you admit it doesn't work? How much of your life are you willing to waste? Because whether you believe it or not, every second that passes, your signal is broadcasting. Right now, at this very moment, and the field is listening. So the choice is simple. Either you keep scattering noise into the universe, or you align your signal once and for all. And here's what I want you to do now. If you've ever seen yourself in Sarah's story, if you've ever worked tirelessly only to be met with emptiness, then write these words in the comments. I've been there. Do it right now. Because declaring it, even in this small way, shifts your nervous system from denial into awareness. And while you're here, hit the like button, not just as a gesture, but as an act of intention, as a signal to yourself that you are done running in circles, that you are ready to claim something new. Because the truth is this: one action, one breath, one comment can be the beginning of a new frequency. So let me ask you again, if effort and force are not the answer, then what is the key? What is the doorway to the shift that changes everything? That is what we are about to discover. The answer lies within your heart, the second brain that modern science has only recently begun to uncover. For too long, you've been told that your mind is the master, that every change begins in thought, that discipline, logic, and strategy are the only paths to transformation. But what if the greatest power you hold is not in your head, but in the silent rhythm pulsing in your chest? Science has now proven it. Your heart is not just a pump, it is a generator. It produces an electromagnetic field 5,000 times stronger than the brain. That field extends several feet beyond your body, influencing not only your own biology, but the people, the situations, even the opportunities that surround you. Think about that for a moment. Your heart is broadcasting a signal right now. A signal that tells the quantum field who you are, what you believe, what you're ready to receive. And yet, most people never learn to tune it. They push their minds, they force their thoughts, they exhaust their bodies, but they ignore the very instrument that could transform everything. Tony Robbins once said, when you align the energy of your heart, you don't just change your emotions, you change reality itself. Can you feel the weight of that truth? Because if your heart is incoherent, fractured, chaotic, reality mirrors that chaos. But when your heart is coherent, when it beats in rhythm with clarity and gratitude, your entire system reorganizes. Your brain sharpens, your body heals, and the field begins to reflect harmony back to you. This isn't philosophy, it's measurable science. HeartMath researchers discovered that when the heart enters coherence, stress hormones like cortisol plummet, regenerative hormones rise, brain waves synchronize with the heart's rhythm, and perception itself expands. You literally see opportunities that your stressed mind was blind to just moments before. Imagine what that means for your life. Now let me tell you a story. Joe Dispenza, a man whose name is now known worldwide. But years ago, he was lying on the ground, broken from a near-fatal cycling accident. Doctors told him surgery was his only hope of walking again. They doubted he would ever fully recover. But Joe did something unthinkable. He refused to accept the script that was handed to him. Instead, he turned inward. Every day, he practiced coherence. He aligned his heart and mind into one unified signal. He imagined the healing. He felt gratitude for a body that was already whole, even when he could not move. And then, the impossible happened. His body began to rebuild itself, bone by bone, nerve by nerve. Against all odds, he stood again. And today, he teaches millions around the world how to do the same, how to unlock the doorway of the heart and step into coherence. So let me ask you, if a man could heal his shattered spine by tuning the signal of his heart, what might be possible for you? What debt could dissolve? What relationship could restore? What dream could finally materialize? Because the key was never force. The key was never endless struggle. The key was always this hidden power inside you. The power that has been waiting silently for you to remember it. Right now in this moment, your heart is speaking. It has always been speaking. The only question is, will you listen? This is not a call to blind belief. This is a call to action, to test the science in your own body, to create coherence and watch as the field reorganizes in your favor. So here's what I want you to do now. If you believe, even for a moment, that your heart might be the forgotten key, declare it. Write these words in the comments. I open my heart. Do it right now, not later, not tomorrow, because the act of declaring shifts your frequency. It signals to yourself, to your nervous system, and to the field itself that you are ready to step through the doorway. And as you write, as you like this video, let it not be a simple click. Let it be a symbol, a decision, like a commitment to yourself that you will not ignore the greatest power you have any longer. Because make no mistake, your heart is not weak. It is not fragile. It is the most powerful electromagnetic organ in your body. And when it beats in coherence, it bends reality. So ask yourself this: why have you been ignoring it? Why have you been letting your mind wage war when your heart could create peace? Why have you been forcing when you could simply align? The answer, perhaps, is that no one told you the truth until now, but you cannot unknow it. Not anymore. Every great transformation begins with a doorway, and the doorway is here, in your chest, beating, waiting, ready. The only question left is this: how do you step through? How do you truly activate the heart's frequency and unlock the power that has been hidden inside you all along? That is where we go next. You step through by releasing the force and learning the art of allowing. Think about it. How many times have you clenched your fists, tightened your jaw, and whispered to yourself, I have to make this work? How many times have you pushed, controlled, obsessed over the details, and yet nothing changed? The harder you push, the deeper the resistance pushes back. The more you try to control, the more life slips through your fingers. And the truth is undeniable. Control is an illusion. The tighter you hold, the faster it breaks. What if the secret isn't in grasping harder, but in letting go? Science now confirms what ancient wisdom has always whispered. Neuroscience reveals that when you release control, when you surrender the pressure, your brain shifts into alpha waves. This state is not weakness, it is power. It is the rhythm of creativity, the frequency of connection. In alpha, the mind becomes a bridge, not a battlefield. Ideas flow, energy flows, life flows. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop demanding, life begins to deliver. Let me tell you a story. Linda from California spent years trying to force her reality into alignment. She studied every law of attraction book. She repeated affirmations 100 times each day. She demanded that the universe answer her on her timeline. But the more she demanded, the more silent everything became. Until one day, exhausted and broken, she gave up. Not out of defeat, but out of surrender. She chose gratitude instead of grasping. She stopped asking when and started thanking for what already is. And within weeks, something extraordinary happened. Out of nowhere, a contract she had been chasing for years landed on her desk. Not because she forced it, but because she allowed it. Do you see? This is the art of allowing. It is not passive, it is not weak, it is alignment. So ask yourself right now, what have you been gripping so tightly that your knuckles are turning white? What dream have you been strangling with desperation? What outcome have you been demanding instead of allowing? Because here's the truth. The universe does not respond to desperation. It responds to coherence, and coherence cannot exist in a clenched fist. Think of a river. The harder you try to dam its flow, the more pressure builds, the more turbulence arises. But when you let the water move, it carves new paths, new landscapes, new possibilities. That is your life. And until you release, until you trust the current, you will stay trapped in the whirlpool of struggle. The danger? Most people will never understand this. They will spend their lives forcing, pushing, grasping, believing that control equals progress, and they will die with clenched fists. But not you. Not here, not now. Because the fact that you are still listening means you are ready to surrender, ready to unlock the power of allowing. And here's your first act. Declare it. Write in the comments right now, I choose to let go. Do it not as empty words, but as a contract with your own soul. A declaration that you will no longer waste years fighting battles that were never meant to be fought. And as you write, notice the shift. The breath softens, the chest loosens. Your nervous system begins to calm. This is not imagination. This is biology. This is neuroscience in motion. because the moment you release the need to control, alpha waves rise. Creativity awakens. Solutions emerge that your clenched mind could never see. But I must warn you, allowing is not easy. The mind will fight it. It will scream, if I don't push, nothing will happen. It will try to drag you back into the cage of force. And this is where most people fall. So the question becomes, will you trust? Will you allow? Will you dare to loosen your grip even when fear begs you to hold tighter? Because the art of allowing is not just a practice, it is a doorway. And once you step through, you cannot go back. Life begins to flow in ways that feel almost supernatural. But in truth, it is simply natural. It was always meant to be this way. Linda discovered it. Countless others have discovered it. And now you stand at the threshold. So I ask you right now, at this very moment, are you ready to open your hand and let the universe place something greater into it? Or will you keep clenching until all you hold is dust? Write your choice below. Say it out loud. Feel the release as you declare, I choose to let go. And as you do, remember this truth. Allowing is not the absence of power. It is the highest expression of it. So tell me, if the art of allowing is the key, why do so many of us stumble, even when we know this secret? Why do we sabotage ourselves, gripping tighter even after being shown the path? That is what we will uncover next. Because we turned coherence into a competition instead of a genuine journey. Think about it. How often have you been told you must always be positive, that every single thought must be perfect, that every single emotion must be bright, shiny, and flawless? And if it isn't, you're failing, you're falling behind, you're not spiritual enough. This is the invisible trap. The trap of forcing fake emotions, the trap of fearing your own thoughts, the trap of demanding instant results. But here's the truth you were never told. Every time you force yourself to be happy, when inside you are hurting, your body reacts. Cortisol, the stress hormone, floods your system. Your heart falls out of rhythm. Your brain waves fracture. Instead of coherence, you create chaos. Instead of alignment, you create incoherence. Science confirms it. When you pretend, your biology knows. When you hide your true feelings, your nervous system pays the price. You may smile on the outside, but inside, the static grows louder. And this is why so many people fail. They don't fail because they are weak. They fail because they've been lied to, because they've been told that authenticity doesn't matter, that emotions are obstacles, that negative thoughts must be killed, buried, erased. But what if that is the very poison keeping you stuck? Let me tell you a story. Emily from Texas was determined to change her life. She woke up every morning, pasted a smile on her face, and repeated, I am happy, I am successful, I am free. On the outside, she looked radiant, but inside she was breaking. The pressure of faking happy was crushing her. Each forced smile only deepened her despair. Until one night, she broke down. She admitted, through tears, I am not okay. And in that moment of truth, something shifted. For the first time, her body exhaled. Her heart softened. Her nervous system calmed. She allowed herself to feel what was real. And strangely, life began to open. Opportunities appeared. Relationships deepened. Peace returned. Do you see? Authenticity is not weakness. It is the foundation of coherence, because coherence is not about perfection. It is about honesty. Ask yourself, how many times have you forced yourself to smile when you wanted to cry? How many times have you buried your fear, your anger, your grief, just to look strong? How many times have you demanded results instantly instead of honoring the slow rhythm of true transformation? This is the invisible prison, and the longer you live in it, the more disconnected you become from yourself and from life itself. But there is a way out. The way out is not pretending. The way out is not forcing. The way out is truth. To stand in your own skin, fully, even when it's uncomfortable. To look at your emotions and say, you belong. To stop racing for quick fixes and instead walk the real journey. Because when you embrace authenticity, your body responds. Stress lowers, cortisol drops, your heart finds rhythm again. Your brain synchronizes. Suddenly the field begins to mirror back clarity instead of confusion. It may sound simple, but it is the hardest thing you'll ever do. To be real, to be raw, to be honest. So let me ask you now, what are you hiding? What mask have you been wearing that is suffocating your truth? What emotions have you buried so deeply that they are poisoning your coherence? The truth may hurt, but pretending hurts more. And this is your invitation right now. Declare it. If you have ever hidden your true feelings behind a fake smile, write in the comments, I choose authenticity. Say it with power. Say it with conviction. Say it not for me, but for you. Because this declaration is not just words, it is a turning point. It is you choosing to stop the race, to step off the stage, to finally walk the genuine path of coherence. But be warned, the world around you may not understand. They may still push you to just be positive. They may still demand you put on the mask. And this is where most people fall back into the trap. So the question is, will you dare to stay true even when it's uncomfortable? Will you dare to feel your real emotions even when they scare you? Will you dare to live without the mask? Because if you do, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to respond, not to who you pretend to be, but to who you truly are. And that is where the real magic begins. So ask yourself, if authenticity is the doorway, then what happens when you finally walk through it? What happens when you live in truth instead of pretending? That is what we are about to explore. When you are authentic, the world begins to melt into the frequency of who you truly are. Let that sink in, because this is not just poetic language. This is science. This is energy. This is reality reshaping itself in response to your coherence. The phenomenon is called entrainment. When one powerful rhythm begins to pulse, weaker rhythms fall into step with it. The strongest frequency always leads. And the moment your heart enters coherence, the world around you begins to respond. Imagine it, your breath steady, your heartbeat smooth, your emotions aligned with truth. That signal radiates outward, pulling chaos into harmony, stress into flow, confusion into clarity. It is no longer just you changing, it is reality itself adjusting to your rhythm. But the question is, are you leading your life or being led by the static of others? Because here's the secret. The field around you is always listening, always syncing. If your signal is jagged, the world reflects jaggedness. If your signal is harmonious, the world begins to harmonize. Mark from Seattle discovered this truth. For years, he struggled to attract investors for his startup. Meetings failed, emails went unanswered, stress consumed him. But then he learned about heart coherence. He didn't overhaul his life. He didn't work 16-hour days. He simply committed to 10 minutes of heart breathing every morning. 10 minutes of tuning his signal into gratitude, rhythm, alignment, and within weeks, the unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, an investor called. The funding he had been chasing for years arrived effortlessly. Not because he begged for it, not because he forced it, but because the frequency he was broadcasting finally matched the reality he was seeking. Do you see the power here? The world does not respond to words. It responds to energy, to frequency, to coherence. So ask yourself, what frequency are you broadcasting right now? Is it fear, doubt, desperation? Or is it alignment, gratitude, truth? Because whether you believe it or not, the world is syncing to you in this very moment. Every conversation, every opportunity, every challenge, they are all reflecting your internal rhythm. And here's the danger. If you refuse to tune, the world will not wait. It will continue to mirror back the chaos inside you. Another year will pass, another decade, and you'll still be wondering why life feels like resistance instead of flow. But the moment you choose authenticity, the moment you choose coherence, the current shifts. Life doesn't just listen. Life follows. This is entrainment. This is the hidden law of resonance that explains why some people seem to attract opportunities without effort, while others grind endlessly with nothing to show. So let me ask you again, are you willing to become the strong rhythm that pulls everything else into harmony? If your answer is yes, then I invite you to make a declaration right now. Write these words in the comments. I choose resonance. Say it with power. Say it with conviction. Say it not just for the algorithm, but for yourself, for your nervous system, for your field. Because the act of declaring is an act of alignment. The act of liking this video is not a random click. It is a symbolic signal, a decision, a pulse that says, I am ready to lead my life, not follow the noise of the world. And once you make that choice, watch carefully. The conversation should shift, the timing aligns, the opportunities that once felt impossible begin to appear. This is not magic. It is science. It is entrainment. It is coherence rippling outward until the world cannot help but respond. But here's the challenge. Resonance is not a one-time event. It is a practice. And the question we must ask now is this. If the world really does melt into the rhythm of your heart, how do you hold that rhythm steady? How do you keep coherence alive when fear creeps back in, when stress returns, when the noise of the world tries to pull you off beat? That is where we go next. You keep the rhythm alive by turning it into a daily breath, not a distant ritual. Most people believe transformation requires massive effort, hours of meditation, elaborate rituals, endless discipline, and because of that belief, they never even start. They wait until life feels easier, until they have more time, until the stars align. But let me tell you the hypnotic truth. The shift doesn't require hours. It doesn't require a retreat in the mountains. It requires minutes, just minutes. Research proves it. Just 5 minutes a day of heart coherence practice can reduce stress by 23%. 5 minutes. That's less time than scrolling through your phone, less time than complaining about your problems, less time than another episode of autopilot living. And yet those 5 minutes have the power to change everything. Because in those minutes, your breath steadies, your heart synchronizes, your nervous system recalibrates, your brainwaves shift from chaos to coherence. And suddenly life no longer feels like resistance, it feels like flow. But most people miss it. Why? Because they think it has to be complicated. They think it has to be mystical. They think it has to be reserved for gurus and monks. But coherence is not a ritual. It is biology, it is breath, it is rhythm. It belongs to you. Donna from Florida discovered this truth. She was a nurse, working long shifts in the chaos of hospitals. Burnout was crushing her. Her body was breaking down. Her mind was unraveling. She thought she had nothing left to give. Then she tried something radical in its simplicity. 5 minutes of heart breathing before every shift. Just 5 minutes of coherence. And suddenly, the weight began to lift. Her stress eased. Her resilience grew. She faced the same chaos, but from a different state. She wasn't drowning anymore. She was leading the rhythm. If she could find peace in the middle of hospital sirens, endless paperwork, and emotional exhaustion, what excuse do you have? Because the truth is this, it's not about finding more time. It's about choosing a moment, choosing a breath, choosing yourself. And here's where I challenge you right now. If you are willing to give yourself even 3 minutes a day, declare it. Write in the comments, I commit. Hit the like button as a symbolic act, a declaration that you are no longer postponing your own coherence. Because this choice matters. The moment you say it, the moment you write it, something inside you shifts. You move from intention into action, from wishful thinking into embodiment. But I know what you might be asking. How will I know if it's working? How will I know the change is real? That is the question that will lead us forward. Because coherence is not just a feeling. It leaves fingerprints on your body, your mind, your life. And once you know where to look, you will see the signs everywhere. So the only question now is, are you ready to find out? Because what comes next will reveal whether your practice is truly reshaping you, or if you're still trapped in the illusion of change. You will know through synchronicities, those strange coincidences that keep repeating. But let me ask you, have you ever had a moment so uncanny, so precise, that it felt as though the universe itself was speaking directly to you? The phone rings, and it's the exact person you were just thinking about. You glance at the clock, and the same repeating numbers appear again and again. You wrestle with a question silently, and the very next song, book, or conversation delivers the answer with eerie precision. Coincidence or a hidden language of reality? Carl Jung called it meaningful coincidence, synchronicity. Physics calls it the collapse of probability into frequency. But to you, in that instant, it feels like something much deeper. A ripple from an invisible order, a whisper from the fabric of existence itself. Tom from Chicago lived this mystery. For a week straight, an old friend from his childhood kept surfacing in his mind. 10 years had passed without a word, and yet the thought persisted. Then one ordinary afternoon, his phone lit up. The name flashing on the screen stopped him cold. It was that very friend calling out of nowhere. Was it chance? Or was Tom's frequency reaching through the field, bending probability, pulling an impossible connection into form? Science suggests the latter. In quantum theory, the universe is not solid, not fixed, not predetermined. It exists as waves of possibility, waiting to collapse into form. What makes them collapse? Observation, intention, frequency. And when your inner signal aligns, when thought, emotion, and heart coherence vibrate together, probability bends into synchronicity. This is why synchronicities appear most often when you are in alignment. They are not random, they are confirmations. They are the field mirroring your state, saying, yes, you are tuned, keep walking this path. But here's the danger. Most people dismiss them. They call them accidents. They laugh, shrug, and move on. And by doing so, they ignore the map being laid at their feet. So let me ask you directly, how many signs have you already ignored? How many doors closed before you dared to step through? How many whispers from the universe have you silenced by calling them coincidence? Because synchronicity is not rare. It is constant. It is all around you. The question is not whether it exists. The question is whether you are awake enough to notice. But notice this, synchronicity is not always comfortable. Sometimes the patterns that repeat are lessons you've refused to learn. Sometimes the coincidences point directly to the shadow you've tried to avoid. The universe doesn't just echo your desires, it echoes your state. If you are unresolved, it will mirror that. If you are coherent, it will align with that. So, what is it reflecting to you right now? And here is the turning point. The moment you honor synchronicity, more of it appears. The moment you write it down, speak it aloud, claim it as real, the signals multiply. Life stops whispering and begins to shout. That is why I challenge you right here, right now. If you have ever experienced synchronicity, no matter how small, declare it. Write in the comments, I have experienced it. Claim it with your voice. Because in doing so, you are sending a signal back to the field that says, I am awake, I am listening, show me more. And if you've never felt synchronicity, then maybe your signal has been clouded. Maybe the noise of stress has drowned out the patterns. But do not worry. The moment you clear the static, the signs will come. Because synchronicity is not a gift for a chosen few. It is the birthright of every conscious being. It is the hidden dialogue between you and reality itself. But now comes the cliffhanger. If synchronicity is real, if these patterns truly emerge from alignment, then we must ask the hardest question of all. Is this just a trick of the mind, or is there a foundation of science that proves it beyond doubt? That is where we go next. No, this is not an illusion. It is the science of consciousness. For too long, people have dismissed synchronicity as fantasy, as imagination, as wishful thinking. But what if I told you that the most groundbreaking experiments in physics prove that your very awareness reshapes matter? Enter the famous double-slit experiment, a beam of light fired through two slits. When unobserved, the photons act like waves, interference patterns dancing across the screen. But the instant an observer pays attention, the wave collapses into particles. Reality shifts, not because of machines, not because of force, but because of consciousness. Do you feel the weight of that? Your awareness is not passive. It is active. It is a force that literally changes the outcome of reality. Jennifer, a graduate student at MIT, once witnessed this firsthand. During a physics lab, she noticed something strange. When her mind was restless, distracted, chaotic, the interference pattern stayed steady. But when she slowed her breath, when her focus dropped into a calm, coherent state, the light itself behaved differently. The photons bent, the waves shifted. It was as if the experiment was responding directly to her state of being. Coincidence? Or proof that consciousness is woven into the very fabric of physics? Carl Jung spoke of synchronicity. Quantum mechanics revealed probabilities collapsing into form. Neuroscience now shows us how thought, emotion, and awareness produce measurable electromagnetic signatures in the body. And when all of this converges, one truth becomes undeniable. Consciousness is not separate from reality. Consciousness creates reality. So the next time you experience a meaningful coincidence, ask yourself, was it random? Or was it your awareness bending the probabilities, collapsing the infinite into the specific, pulling potential into form? This is the frontier where mysticism meets science, where the language of spirit becomes the equations of physics, and it changes everything. Because if observation alone can alter photons, what can focused intention do to the probabilities of your life? What can coherence do to the future you are walking toward? This is where the mystery becomes urgent. You are not a bystander in your reality. You are not a victim of random chance. You are a participant, a creator, a transmitter of frequencies that ripple outward, collapsing possibilities into outcomes. But most people never claim this power. They sleepwalk through life. They let the probabilities collapse at random, shaped by fear, stress, and distraction. And the result, a future they never chose. What about you? Will you continue to let the noise of survival mode write your destiny, or will you step into the science of consciousness and begin to collapse reality in your favor? Because the moment you recognize this, life stops being random. Patterns emerge, signs appear, doors open, and the synchronicities you once dismissed become a new language, a dialogue between you and the field itself. So here is my invitation. If you want to dive deeper into this frontier, into the science that proves consciousness shapes matter, subscribe now, because the next revelations will stretch your mind wider than you ever imagined. But let me leave you with a cliffhanger. If observation alone can bend light, if intention can align frequencies, then the real question becomes this: how can you use this principle to rewrite your future? That is where we go next. You rewrite the future by restructuring frequency in the present moment. Let that sink in. Your future is not a distant place waiting for you years from now. Your future is being sculpted right now. With every thought, with every heartbeat, with every frequency you broadcast into the field. Most people believe destiny is written in stone, that their past mistakes chain them to a path they cannot escape. But neuroscience says otherwise. The science of neuroplasticity has revealed something extraordinary. Your brain is not fixed. It is not a rigid machine doomed to repeat the same patterns. It is fluid. It is plastic. It is constantly rewiring itself in response to experience, emotion, and focus. When you enter coherence, when your heart and mind synchronize, your neural pathways begin to shift. Old circuits of fear, addiction, and limitation weaken. New circuits of clarity, strength, and possibility ignite. In that state, you are not just imagining change, you are biologically building it. This is not theory, this is science. Take Steve from Ohio. For years, alcohol ruled his life. He tried every program, every promise, every attempt at willpower. Nothing lasted. But 2 years ago, he made a decision. Every morning, before the noise of the world could claim him, he sat quietly. He slowed his breath. He placed his attention on his heart, and something happened. Little by little, his cravings weakened. His nervous system calmed. His brain began to rewire. 2 years later, he is sober. He is free. And he attributes it not to force, not to punishment, but to the daily practice of aligning his frequency. So ask yourself, what future are you unconsciously wiring into your brain today? Is it a future of fear and repetition, or a future of freedom and alignment? Because here is the truth. Your future does not wait for you. It obeys you. It is shaped by the coherence you create right now. But most people never seize this power. They wake up, repeat the same emotions, the same thoughts, the same stress, and then wonder why tomorrow looks like yesterday. They don't realize they are rehearsing their past into their future. You don't have to live that way. Right here, in this exact moment, you can begin to write a new script, not by forcing, not by begging, but by tuning, by restructuring your frequency in the present, by teaching your brain and body to feel the emotions of the future you desire before it arrives. This is the paradox. Most think you must wait until your life changes to feel joy, freedom, or power, but the science of neuroplasticity proves the opposite. Feel it now in coherence, and your brain begins to wire it as your reality. And when your brain wires it, your future follows. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you began broadcasting the frequency of the future you truly desire today? What doors would open? What chains would break? Don't just imagine it. Decide it, write it, anchor it into the field right now, because your frequency is writing your future with every passing second. The only question is, are you writing it consciously or unconsciously? This is your invitation. If you're ready to claim the pen, to take back authorship of your own destiny, declare it now. Write in the comments, I am rewriting my future, not tomorrow, not someday, now. And here's the cliffhanger. If you can restructure the future through coherence, what about fear? That constant shadow that follows you, whispering doubts, pulling you back into limitation? What if fear itself is not your enemy, but raw energy waiting to be transformed? That is where we go next. Fear is not the enemy. It is the doorway back to coherence. What if the very thing you've been running from was never meant to destroy you, but to guide you? Think about it. How many times has fear stopped you from speaking, from acting, from stepping into the life you know is yours. You treat fear like a wall, but what if that wall is an illusion? What if fear is the threshold you must cross, not to escape danger, but to reclaim your power? Science tells us something astonishing. The chemical surge of fear in your body, the hormones that flood your system when you feel threatened, dissolve in just 90 seconds if you allow them to move. 90 seconds. That's all. The panic, the shaking, the tightness in your chest, they are not eternal, they are waves. And every wave rises and falls. But here's the trap. Most people resist. They fight the wave, they feed it with stories, with panic, with endless loops of what if. And in that resistance, fear grows into a monster. But the truth is simpler. If you let fear move through you, if you breathe, if you watch it like a passing storm, it dissolves. What remains is not terror. What remains is clarity. Rachel from Boston discovered this. A single mother drowning in bills, overwhelmed by uncertainty, terrified for her son's future. One night, the fear was unbearable. But instead of numbing it, instead of denying it, she sat in silence. She put her hand on her heart. She breathed into the fear. She let the wave rise. She let the wave pass. And something shifted. The next day, an email arrived. Her son had received a scholarship. The fear she had once cursed became the doorway to faith, to coherence, to a reality she thought was impossible. So ask yourself now, how many blessings have you delayed because you refused to face your fear? How many doors have remained closed, not because they were locked, but because you never dared to knock? Fear is not your chain. Fear is your compass. It points to the very edge of your expansion. It reveals where your frequency has been fractured, where coherence is waiting to return. What happens if you embrace it instead of running? What happens if you allow fear to be fuel, to be fire, to be the very energy that carries you through the threshold? The world begins to respond. The frequency clears. The field reflects back your courage, and reality itself reshapes. But here's the choice. You can keep resisting fear, feeding it until it swallows your future, or you can meet it, breathe through it, and walk into the coherence on the other side. Right here, right now, I want you to declare it. If you're ready to face fear, write in the comments, I choose courage. Claim it, seal it, because your words are not just ink on a page, they are signals to the field. And remember this, fear is not proof that you are weak. Fear is proof that you are standing at the edge of transformation. So what does it mean when you finally live in coherence? What happens when your heart, your mind, your body, and your nature vibrate as one? That is the ultimate revelation. That is where we go next. Coherence brings the deepest freedom. You are no longer fighting, you become the flow. Take a breath and let that land. Because this is the truth you've been circling from the very beginning. All along you thought life was a battle. You thought success required force, discipline, and endless struggle. You thought fear was an enemy, your heart was fragile, and your mind was a prison of repeating thoughts. But now you know the greater secret. Consciousness is the architect. Your awareness is the pen that writes reality. Your heart is the bridge, an electromagnetic force 5,000 times stronger than the brain, carrying your intention into the field. And fear is not the demon you were taught to avoid. Fear is the hidden ally, the doorway back to alignment, the compass pointing toward your expansion. When you weave these truths together, you step into coherence. And in coherence, you stop resisting the river of life. You merge with it. You become flow itself. Imagine it. A life where you no longer push, no longer beg, no longer demand. Instead, you attract, you resonate, you synchronize with the frequency of your destiny. The field bends, not because you forced it, but because you matched it. This is the ultimate journey, the supreme path, the destiny that was waiting for you all along. But here's the mystery. The journey does not begin tomorrow. It begins with a single declaration, one comment, one word, one choice made now in this exact moment. Michael from Los Angeles once knew only despair. He was homeless, sleeping under bridges, convinced the world had abandoned him. One night, scrolling through his phone, he found a video much like this one. And at the end, the speaker asked for a single commitment. Just a few words in the comments, I am changing. Michael typed those words. Simple, small, but they carried weight. They were a signal, a declaration to the field, a commitment to himself. 1 year later, Michael was no longer homeless. He had a roof, a job, and a mission. He now helps the very people he once stood among, the forgotten, the broken, the lost, all from one moment of coherence, one breath, one decision. And now it's your turn. What could happen in your life if you chose coherence now? If you chose to declare it, not someday, but today? If you allowed the field to hear your commitment and let the universe conspire on your behalf, this is your invitation. Write these words right now in the comments. I am changing. Do not underestimate the power of this act. It is not just a comment. It is a signal, a vibration, a contract written into the quantum field. And as you type those words, feel the energy shift. Feel the commitment lock in. You are no longer a spectator of your destiny. You are the author. If this video has touched something deep inside you, let that energy move into action. Hit the like button right now. Save this video to return to whenever you need to remember who you are. Share it with a friend who is ready to awaken. And don't stop here. Subscribe and turn on notifications because this is only the beginning. More truths, more practices, more breakthroughs are waiting for you, but you must choose to continue. Thank you for choosing this video among millions. Thank you for bringing your heart, your energy, your presence here. Your comment will be your contract. Your like will be your signal. Your share will be your ripple. So once more, declare it. Right, I am changing. Watch what unfolds, because when you step into coherence, you no longer chase life. Life begins chasing you, and that is the ultimate freedom.